When you drive defensively, it means you assess, you observe and you plan. That 12'3" height limit means planning another route, at the same time as assessing the hazard from the car parked on the pavement. Observe the bridge carefully. Can you get underneath it without straddling the white line? And if you move to the centre, can you avoid the traffic coming round that bend? A mile to the right, there's a weight limit. He's going that way, so he must have planned his route already, using his local knowledge of the road layout. Planning ahead and reading the road gets more difficult as the weather deteriorates. This simulates visibility which is reduced by 10%. Already there's a significant difference. In heavy rain or mist, you should be going a lot slower than this. And in our simulation of heavy fog, you're meeting a wall of grey. A busy high street is a prime location for finding all sorts of hazards. We didn't quite keep it moving here, waiting for the lights to change to green. Notice the deep shadows under the trees, which are almost hiding some of the pedestrians. The road narrows slightly. Now that oncoming car is no problem waiting to turn right, but follow him through in your offside mirror. Watch those pedestrians coming up to the Pelican crossing. They're pushing the button and the lights could change. But we're through and kept tucked well over to the left for the fairly sharp bend. And emerging from the bend, watch on the near side for the pedestrians walking on the road. There's some traffic from the junction on the right. Now that dark blue car, it appears to be pulling out in front of us, but then it dives into a parking space. Now another Pelican crossing with lots of activity coming up. A group of lads running across the road as the lights change to red. We can anticipate we have to stop. And on with the handbrake. As the lights flash amber, a man appears from a blind spot beneath us. And that woman's still dragging her child across. Always be prepared for the unexpected. You never know what other people are going to do. As we curve round sharply, there's an island and a taxi partly blocking our path. We have to pull right over, almost to the curb, to squeeze through the gap, keeping a close eye on that island. And that's a fairly typical drive through a busy high street. If it's at all possible, keep the truck moving. A smoother drive means lower fuel consumption, better journey times and less wear and tear on vehicle and tyres. Here it's a good throttle sense that keeps us moving. We never quite stopped. And if we time our approach to the roundabout carefully, we may be able to slot in without stopping. But in fact, we're forced to stop here. By just creeping forward, we can let the other side of the road clear of traffic without us having actually to stop. Once it's clear, we can use the full width of the road to avoid clipping the near side curb. It all goes back to that ability to assess, good observation and careful planning, and a lot of practice. And this is one of the things defensive driving aims to avoid: excessive wear on the tyres as they scrub on the road. If you need to do a U-turn, you should plan ahead, reverse into a side road and then pull out forwards. This method can be very expensive. This manoeuvre has some of the elements of the reversing exercise, but in a real-life situation. Reversing into a loading bay, you need to get a bow on the vehicle before you start to push backwards. All you have to do now is to push the trailer back, very much like the last part of the exercise on the test pad. You're constantly putting small amounts of lock on and off, again as if you're turning around the edges of a 20p piece. And now full lock to get the unit underneath the trailer and straight back into the loading bay. Now with the offside tyres along the yellow line and reversing back with continuous small adjustments until we gently touch the buffers. Here we're setting up the truck to reverse into a very tight shop access road. The oncoming traffic has already stopped, but you have to be very aware of what's happening behind you. All of the other road users here are going to get very impatient. A horn is a warning from our driver to the traffic behind, drawing attention to himself. He's pushing back towards the access road between the two shops, making rapid, small steering adjustments at slow speed to point the trailer exactly where he wants to go. And that's someone who's already lost patience and taken a chance. You should be prepared for that. Notice the one on the right creeping forward again. He's getting impatient too. And as the unit swings round, more traffic squeezes through and you can hear their frustration. There's a last-minute adjustment on the steering and we're there. This is a highly skilled manoeuvre even if the road was empty, but here it also demands all your skills in observation and awareness. You don't need to know about tipping to pass a test, but the chances are you will need to know at some time in your career. Once you've found some firm level ground, undo the catches. Pull the lever down and open the barn door and stand back. Press the clutch down. Wait a few seconds, depending on the gearbox that's fitted. Put the tipping switch to in and release the clutch gently. Push the tipping lever to up and wait for it to go up 3 or 4 rams. When some of the load has tipped, put the tipping switch to hold and then draw forward a few feet. Put the lever back to tip and discharge the remainder of the load. Put the lever to down and watch the body come down. Disengage the tipping unit and put the tipping lever back to hold when you're travelling empty. Clear any debris from the locking mechanism. And secure the catches. As a final safety check before you leave the site, make sure there's nothing trapped between the twin wheels. Ask for expert advice to make sure it's removed safely. On the safety front, be aware of what's happening around you and anticipate hazards as far ahead as you can. Night driving means different hazards and special skills. We can see the lights ahead, which are green, but we're running up to a junction with yellow box markings, which we need to keep the whole of the vehicle clear of if we're going to stop. Now we have a street scene with no pedestrians because it's late. It's quiet, but you should never let your guard down. You never know what's around the next corner. Now this looks like it could be a one-way system coming up, although it doesn't say so. Keeping to the right-hand curb, checking the mirrors and moving over to the right-hand lane to turn right, anticipating any traffic coming from the road in front. This is like a large roundabout. 3 lanes now. Moving over to the left-hand lane. The lights are green, and at this time of night we can expect that they'll stay green. Still no other road users around, but stay alert. The arrows here are pointing towards the left, so there's a double white line system coming up, and it's solid on our side, and now hazard warning lines. Look for headlights coming in the opposite direction. They can give you a clue about what's happening further along. The sheer number of road signs here means we should be braking. The yellow bars on the road are badly scarred, suggesting a serious hazard, and lots of heavy braking from previous traffic. This is when you're glad your tyres are inflated correctly and they're not close to being worn out. There's some black and white chevrons, and there's so many of them, it's obviously a tight turn. Now we can start looking for traffic on the roundabout coming from the right to try and fit in without stopping. We're searching for clues and choosing the right gear. And now joining the motorway, we're on a divided slip road with very light traffic in our direction. We do an over-the-shoulder check to make sure we can join safely. Now, if this was daytime, we'd have to judge our approach speed very carefully to fit into a gap in the traffic. Don't let it being very quiet lull you into a false sense of security. For example, there could be a vehicle parked on the hard shoulder with no hazard lights. We can take it up to the speed limit once we're on, but remember, it takes 7.5 truck lengths to stop a fully loaded Arctic. That's around 100 yards. Think of that next time you pass the 100-yard countdown markers at a junction. Double that to 15 truck lengths to stop in the wet, around 200 yards. That's a lot more than in a car. The brightly lit sign is for the motorway services, so we should already be thinking of moving over to the centre lane if necessary to allow people on more easily. In an older vehicle you may need to double declutch. Watch the sequence carefully and we'll show it to you again in slow motion. Clutch down, gear lever to neutral, clutch up, rev up the engine because we're changing down, clutch down, gear lever to the next position, and then clutch up again. At night, you often can't see where the trailer is by looking in the mirrors. You have to be skilled enough to know where it is, even though the mirrors don't really help. At night, stay alert. Make sure you can see and be seen. Busy motorways have their own hazards, not least getting onto them. You need a much bigger gap than in a car, and you should be prepared to stop if necessary. The mirrors show us another truck moving into the centre lane to allow us to join. Once we're in the near side lane, we'll stay there until we're used to the speed of the traffic. And there goes the truck that let us in. Generally, you can only use the first 2 lanes, but don't hog the centre lane when there are suitable gaps to your left. Move over to allow a free flow of traffic. You can use the 3rd lane if there are roadworks in the 1st lane or in a contraflow or to overtake a wide load. Be aware that traffic will creep up on your near side like this van. In rain, cars will often sit in a blind spot behind you. Use your proximity mirror to show you where you are in relation to the hard shoulder. Use your height to observe what's happening ahead. Once the car is passed, you can anticipate the bulk carrier will pull out to overtake the tipper. The roadworks could mean that the tipper will pull in. If necessary, cover the brake. It reduces your reaction time and your overall stopping distance. In any sort of traffic, it's vital to maintain a 2-second margin between you and the vehicle ahead, even if the other drivers cut in between you when it's as heavy as this. We'll try it using the overhead gantry. Only a fool breaks the 2-second rule. Just right. If you break down, pull over as far as you can onto the hard shoulder and put on your hazard lights. Never try and retrieve any part of the load if it falls off. Call the police immediately. If a tyre bursts, it's illegal to carry on driving. Call for assistance from a tyre dealer. You can never get away from motorway roadworks. Here the outside lane is closed down and the 50 limit is mandatory. So is the 30 limit. Stick to it no matter what other road users are doing. Motorway safety is a big issue for all drivers. Keep your distance, avoid motorway fatigue and, as always, plan ahead. There's a lot to take in all at once when you learn to drive a large goods vehicle. There's a lot to take in when you watch this programme. To get the maximum benefit, you need to view it again and again. It's an important part of becoming a safe, professional driver.